Well, oof. Okay, now, all right. Want to apologize for the technical difficulties, but of course, the enemy is doing what they can to silence people who know what's really going on. But as long as I have breath in my lungs and I live, I will continue to reveal you for the snakes that you are. Anyway, as you can see, I have my UN flag hanging behind me because we're going to delve into whether or not the Messiah of the Jewish people, Jewish people, because they wish they were real Jews. My research through the years have come to a conclusion that there are no real Jews living in our modern times now. People like to take things out of the Bible and claim that what it's referring to are the people living today. No. It was referring to people living back then, not their descendants of today. Everybody's claiming to be the chosen people. But the reality, the sad fact of it is, the closest, I guess, we can get to the descendants of those Hebrews, because they weren't even called Jews back then. They were called Israelites or Hebrews. The term Jew didn't even exist. But anyway, if there are any real descendants of those people left, those are the same Palestinians you're slaughtering today. So anyway, whatever. So we're going to delve into whether or not... shut the fuck up. We're going to delve into whether or not the leader of the the American people, Trump, has violated the Geneva Convention. What is it called? Convention. Now let me see. Okay. So without further ado, and again, I want to apologize for the technical difficulties I had earlier. Here we go. Several actions and policies during the Trump administration were accused by UN experts, legal scholars, and human rights organizations of violating the Geneva Conventions and international humanitarian law. While these allegations are significant, they are viewed as violations by experts rather than final adjudicated rulings of international courts. Key areas of concern include pardoning black water mercenaries. In December 2020, UN experts stated that President Trump's pardon of 4 Blackwater contractors convicted for their roles in the 2007 Nisour Square massacre in Baghdad violated international law. The UN Working Group on the use of mercenaries argued that this action broke the U.S. obligation to hold war criminals accountable under the Geneva Conventions. Threats to target cultural sites. Following threats to destroy Iranian cultural sites, experts and lawmakers warned that such actions would constitute war crimes under international law, as targeting cultural property is prohibited. Approval of torture. Listen up. During his 2016 campaign, Trump suggested bringing back a hell of a lot worse than waterboarding and questioned the limitations imposed by the Geneva Conventions, leading to widespread condemnation from military officials and human rights advocates. Listen again. Military strikes and civilian casualties. Critics argued that certain coalition strikes, such as those in Mosul, resulted in high numbers of civilian casualties and did not take sufficient precautions, potentially violating international humanitarian law. Something all three of these sons of bitches have in common. Trump, Putin, and Netanyahu. And you think these motherfuckers are against each other? No. They're in cahoots together. They're part of the brotherhood together. The only real enemies they have are you and me, the civilians. Do you get it yet? Do you understand it yet? Oh boy. Proposal for Gaza. In 2025, reports indicated that proposals to displace Palestinians from Gaza were viewed by experts as a clear violation of international law and potentially a grave breach of the Fourth Geneva Convention. Contextual factors. Defense Department Law of War Manual. In 2015, the 2015 manual, which was in place during his term, reaffirms that civilians may not be targeted and that acts of violence meant to spread terror are prohibited. Unprivileged belligerents. The administration's categorization of certain individuals as unprivileged belligerents was used to justify actions that others argued violated established international legal norms. International Criminal Court, ICC, conflict. The administration, Trump's administration, faced criticism for imposing sanctions on ICC officials who were investigating potential U.S. war crimes in Afghanistan. While these accusations of violations were widely raised by international bodies, no formal binding ruling was made by a court of international law against President Trump during his term. And I'm assuming this is the first term. Now, why is this important? Because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You see, y'all don't seem to understand that by allowing or supporting Trump going into Venezuela, capturing Maduro, or going and attacking Iran and killing their leadership, what you don't seem to understand, if he's allowed to do this, and he's done it, what's to stop another powerful nation from doing the same? And you think it's coincidence that Putin is doing what he's doing in Ukraine and Netanyahu is doing what he's doing to the Palestinians? Now Trump is doing whatever the fuck he wants to do. You think this is coincidence? Are y'all that stupid? Apparently you are. You are exactly what the powers that be, the chosen people, master race, say about you. You're cattle. You're the profane. You're the heathens. What that little girl called you on Jerry Springer's show a long time ago. Animals. She was a Jewish little girl. Jewish, because she wishes, or they wish they were real Jews. I'm going to now read an article from February 13th, 2025, from the American Civil Liberties Union website. The targeted chaos of Trump's attacks against international human rights law and justice. Donald Trump has positioned his administration to launch one of the most abusive and aggressive assaults on human rights in U.S. presidential history. And just for those of you on both sides duped into playing this game, I'm going to repeat what Tony Montana said. Whose side I'm on? Me. That's who I'm siding with. Who do I trust? Me. In just 1 week, President Donald Trump has launched the most systematic and aggressive assault on human rights in U.S. presidential history. Already, his administration has disengaged with the United Nations Human Rights Council, even though the U.S. is not a current member, defunded a UN refugee agency. The U.S. long supported ordered sanctions against the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, ordered to review ratified U.S. treaties that are the law of the land and threaten to commit ethnic cleansing in Gaza. While the first Trump administration made similar attempts to hinder human rights, including when it withdrew from the Human Rights Council in 2018 and sanctioned ICC officials in 2020, the second Trump administration has been far more drastic, aggressive, and concentrated in its actions. There is no doubt that the larger goal is to dismantle or at least severely disrupt international human rights and global justice frameworks that have for decades protected our collective universal rights and provided avenues for accountability. In 2018, partly in response to a damning UN expert visit and report on extreme poverty in the US, the Trump administration decided to pull out of the Human Rights Council, calling it cesspool of political bias, and stopped cooperating with other human rights experts. However, in 2020, the Trump administration participated in the Universal Periodic Review, UPR, which scrutinized the United States human rights record and held it accountable on a global level. The next UPR session is scheduled in November of this year. It remains unclear and unlikely that the administration will participate. In 2020, Trump's sanctions against ICC officials were widely condemned and challenged in federal courts, including by the ACLU. A federal court blocked the government from enforcing the order against academics and scholars who challenged its unconstitutionality on First Amendment grounds. President Joe Biden eventually rescinded Trump's order in 2021. This year, however, shortly after taking office, Trump issued an executive order again targeting the ICC with new sanctions. The new executive order is an affront to international global justice and raises serious First Amendment concerns because it creates a serious chilling effect on people in the United States for, among other things, helping the court identify and investigate atrocities that fall within its jurisdiction. 79 countries issued a statement defending the court and warning that such measures increase the risk of impunity for the most serious crimes and threaten to erode the international rule of law, which is crucial for promoting global order and security. Earlier this week, 17 independent UN human rights experts released a statement expressing grave concern over Trump's new executive order, calling it an attack on global rule of law and strikes at the very heart of the international criminal justice system. And if you're still watching and you're intelligent, you see what's going on. If you don't, I'll tell you at the end of this. The Trump administration's efforts are part of a broader anti-rights agenda that organizations like the Heritage Foundation, the mastermind behind Project 2025, promote as a way to weaken international human rights and entrench the use of national security and sovereignty as pretext to evade accountability for gross violations of these rights. For example, the Trump administration previously established the Commission on Unalienable Rights, which attempted to redefine and weaken international human rights through a new hierarchy of rights that would elevate religion and property over basic human rights. More recently, the Heritage Foundation published an article echoing this stance, citing former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's 60-page draft report in its call to roll back decades of progress in international human rights law. The new Trump administration's actions, however, are notably more audacious and dangerous because they aim to unilaterally undermine because they aim to unilaterally undermine ratified human rights treaties that, according to our Constitution, are the law of the land. For instance, Trump's executive order issued earlier this month calls for a review of all international intergovernmental organizations of which the United States is a member and provides any type of funding or other support, and all conventions and treaties to which the United States is a party. This order seeks to determine which organizations, conventions, and treaties are contrary to U.S. interests and whether such organizations, conventions, or treaties can be reformed. This review also requires recommendations regarding whether the U.S. should withdraw from any such organizations, conventions, or treaties. Trump's review of these international organizations and agreements, may lead to defunding critical human rights mechanisms, including the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, the UN Special Procedures, and treaty bodies that effectively monitor and investigate human rights violations worldwide that have been cornerstones of the modern human rights system. Are you paying attention? This is coming from the ACLU website. Are you beginning to understand what's going on here? You are seeing the birth of the new world order. Before with the birth pangs, now you're seeing the actual birth of it. We are the new Nazi Germany. Do you get it yet? Do you understand yet what's going on? What's going on today is not accidental. It's being done on purpose so that we are the new enemy of the world. This is the new Nazi Germany over here. And when this country goes, the rest of the nations are going to fall like goddamn dominoes. It's being done by design to bring down the government. to destroy the Constitution. That's why he didn't get an approval from Congress to invade Iran. Do you guys realize yet that these so-called leaders are nothing but puppets, doing what they're told? Importantly, the United States has only ratified 3 treaties out of 9 core international human rights conventions that have been negotiated and adopted since World War II. The treaties that were ratified in the early 1990s, the International Covenant, there's that word again, covenant, on civil and political rights, ICCPR, the Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhumane, or Degrading Treatment or Punishment, CAT, and the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, ICERD, were subject to reservations from the Senate. These reservations and an ever-increasing anti-human rights agenda meant that the treaties have never been incorporated through legislation, rendering them significantly less impactful and enforceable domestically. Now, the second Trump administration is ordering a review that would further weaken these treaties and decimate our nation's human rights obligations. Civil society organizations and experts have also cautioned that these increasing attacks against both domestic and international human rights will embolden global authoritarianism and make the world less safe, especially for historically marginalized communities. That means you, Black people. That means you, Hispanic people. This week, 16 former and current American UN experts released a statement criticizing the Trump administration's executive orders, stating, "This assault on the rule of law fails to advance any conceivable American national interest, which lies in a worldwide system founded on principles of human rights. The non-use of force, collaboration to solve global problems, and the sovereign equality of states. The administration's actions betray each of these well-established international principles." Trump's attacks against international, that's the key word, human rights bodies mirror Trump's attacks against international human rights bodies mirror the aggressive, despotic measures taken against domestic entities and public servants, especially those who have been involved in acting as government watchdogs or pursuing accountability for civil and human rights abuses. These anti-human rights orders aim to significantly weaken accountability for violating international law, neutralize opposition to his dangerous agenda, and potentially usurp congressional powers. Trump's efforts to erode our universal human rights must be stopped. Weakening domestic and international human rights and justice will only cause severe harms, instability, and more violence at home. Let me repeat that part. And more violence at home and globally. Again, this article is from the ACLU on February 13th, 2025, way before Venezuela and Iran. What's the point? The point is they are let me take another sip. The point is, we're the new Nazis, y'all. We're the new warmongers. We're the new bad guys. Or what the Iranian called or calls the Great Satan. And everything going on today is so that for this institution, for this to come over here and take control. And if you don't understand it, look it. They're given the reasons to do it. They're given the reasons to use the UN. Y'all better wake the fuck up. We're going into the New World Order, whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not. Trump is doing exactly what he's told to do. He's a puppet. Netanyahu, a puppet. Putin, a puppet. They're doing exactly what their masters are telling them to do. And you idiots and fools out there on the left and the right are falling for it. You're falling for it. And we're going to deserve everything that we get. We're going to deserve it. It's your fault. If you allow Trump to do whatever the fuck he wants, then others are going to do whatever the fuck they want. But some of you deserve it. A lot of you deserve it, matter of fact. There's a alert, a countrywide alert now of attacks that are going to happen. You better be prepared. And remember, you can't blame anyone but yourself. You can't blame anyone. Whatever happens from this point on, you can't blame anyone but yourselves for what's happening. And I know what's going to happen already, because it happened before. It never changes. Y'all fall right in line with what the manipulators want you to do. It's true. You are cattle. They use dogs. The dogs being the Young Turks, Laura Loomer, Ben Shapiro, Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly. These are the dogs that they use. There's just a few of them. I just mentioned a few of them. But these are the dogs that they use. You know how you see dogs being used to get the sheep going in a certain direction, to get the cattle to move around? That's what they're doing. Those are the motherfucking dogs. Those people I just mentioned. They're manipulating you into different directions the way they want to. And I know exactly what's going to happen. When a major terrorist attack happens in this country, you're going to forgive each other. You're going to love each other again. The left and the right and everybody in between. You're going to be, we got to join forces to go against these people. Not understanding that the enemy's true goal is to eliminate the monotheistic religions. That's Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Once they eliminate Islam, the Christians are next. Once Christianity is gone, those people who think they're Jews are next. Because the powers that be are not monotheistic. They aren't real Christian. They're not real Muslims. They're not real Jews. They believe that the monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, are a perversion of their religion. The mystery religion of Babylon. The New World Order is actually the old world order coming back. They want to kill you physically. This ain't symbolic. Everything that's happening is happening by their design. You better watch those Star Wars movies again. You better watch them again. We have become the oppressors. Thank you, Khalif Williams. That's a fact. We're the new bad guys, y'all. They're convincing the world that we need to be taken out. And I'm guaranteeing you right now, Trump and his administration are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. The only ones that don't know what's going on is the majority of you so-called Americans. But what do I care? I'm in my 50s. I can drop dead at any moment. The ones that are going to suffer are going to be the people that are left alive and their children. And quite frankly, I don't care anymore. I just don't care. I used to care. I don't care anymore, y'all. I do not care what happens to you anymore. You are exactly what the powers that be call you. Stupid animals. Useless eaters. That's something that Ted Turner called you. Yeah, he called you useless eaters that need to be eliminated. Oh boy. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I wanted to read those things. I wanted to show you. They're building the case against you. Idiots. Peace.